In this video, I'll show you how you can use TestFactory to generate API test cases for your APIs without writing a single line of code, and that too in less than 10 minutes. For the demonstration purposes, I'll be taking example of Spotify API, and this is the link on which their API documentation is available. If you import that, it is going to import around 120 APIs. Once that is imported, just click on Jarvis AI and click on create. It is going to analyze the APIs those were imported, their request, their response, and based on that, for request it will automatically understand what is the data type required for the request attributes. It will apply the data generators automatically. As for the response that API is expecting, it will understand what that API response will look like, and then based on that it will automatically add the assertions, also known as contract testing. For example, you have a /me API that returns you a user ID which is of type string. TestFactory will understand that and it will apply the assertion that expects a user ID in your JSON response who is of type string. And along with that, it will also try to add a variations of happy path, bad path, and for the bad path it will try to run some edge cases, for example sending the incorrect data type. And for the happy path, it will try to send the request body just like the API specification says. You might have to update that a bit, because let's say you only allow user ID whose length is up to 12 characters. In that case, you'll have to tell TestFactory that generate the automatic string but not more than 12 characters. Now test suits are being generated. So far 90 are done, so let's wait a bit until it is done. Meanwhile, you can check the documentation that contains comprehensive information on what are the features that TestFactory has and how to actually get started. Now all the test cases are generated along with the test suits. So in all, 120 test suits are generated, 1019 test cases are generated, and total assertions are 3310. For the example's sake, I'm going to create a playlist under my account, and for that I'm going to use post create playlist API. If I click on that, you can see that there are 5 test cases that TestFactory has generated, and you can read the description. But for now, let's just see for the happy path. Here, if I open the request, you can see that it has variabilized the user ID value, and then public name and description, they already have been applied auto data generators along with their respective data type. For example, for public it is going to use boolean, and for name and description it is going to use string. And it has detected the OAuth2 settings also, and this is all it has picked up from the YAML link that contains the OpenAPI schema. And along with that, it has also understood what response type this API is going to return, and based on that it has added the assertions. For example, the owner is going to be string, URI is going to be string, public is going to be boolean, so on and so forth. Now if I run the API as is, it is going to fail because this is not a valid user ID. But for the example sake, just run it. But before that, I'll have to update these credentials, because if I run as is, it is going to say invalid credentials because I haven't set them. Now to set these values, go to OpenAPI environment dropdown and click on manage environments, and here you will find the environment values. Here you have to replace the client ID and client secret. Let me do that. So this is client ID, this is client secret. Once this is done, if I run this, it is going to give me error because we are using incorrect user ID, and in the response you can see that it is giving error, you cannot create a playlist for another user. So let me actually hardcode that value for now and use my user ID. In some time I'll also show you how you can use it dynamically. So if I run this API is passing, but some assertions are failing, and the first assertion failing is for the response time, because TestFactory is expecting response time to be less than 200 milliseconds, but we are getting that in 255. And some image assertions are failing, and that is okay because I'm not sending any image. So let me fix these two. If I go to assertion, I'll have to delete these because image assertions I don't need, and I have to increase the API response time. So currently it is 300, let me double it to 400, and if I run it, it should pass now. and you can see that it is passing. Now you can go beyond just the contract assertion. Let's say you want to verify the name that you sent, right? Is it the same name that you are getting back in the response? And in the response, probably you can see manually. So if you just type dot name here, you'll see that this is the name you are getting. But you can also automate that in the assertion. So let me show you. Just copy the existing assertion for the name, and instead of saying is string, just say is equal to, and then we want to capture it dynamically. That means we have to refer to a current request. So here is a current request, and in the current request body, I know that the name is sent as $.name, and that's it. If I run this test case, it is failing. Okay, it is failing for the response time. Let me increase a bit to say 500. But since only one assertion failed, you can see that this has passed. And check the name. It was currently it is KNC something. If I run it again, the name will change to something else. Wow, this is taking longer and longer. Not sure what is the problem, but here you can see that it is changing. Now at the same time, let me also show you how you can pick this value at runtime using something called as API chaining. So Spotify has a me API. If you call this API, you will get your all the information of your profile, and I'm calling that API. Ignore the assertions for now, but if you go to response, you'll see that this is the value that you are getting, and here somewhere there will be the ID. So we are interested in ID. So this is the filter that I'll have to use, and I have to chain this API. So let me go back to the original API, which was post create playlist, and here I would want to chain it. That means I have to use a response of other request, and this is how I can do it. Here I have to tell what request I want to use. So we know that this is me, and what is the filter from the response. So this is the ID, and now if I run it, now it has passed because response time has reduced drastically. That is good. But at the same time, the name assertion has passed, and also the value that we put it here dynamically, it has picked up it correctly.